All right, listen up, my people. Welcome back. It's your boy, the Bronx Squirrel, swinging in hot off the fire escape with another one. Tonight, we got a stacked show for you. We talking Aaron Judge. We talking MVP race. We talking the Yankees, the pressure, the media, the whole nine. Michael K., Joel Sherman, the beat writers. Everybody's throwing in their 2 cents, and you know I gotta clap back with mine. So here's the deal. After each topic, I'm jumping in with the real talk. Bronx style. No sugarcoating, no fluff. You want the truth, the perspective, the smarts with a little street flavor? You came to the right place. But let me tell you now, if you ain't feeling the vibe, if you don't like a squirrel from the Bronx dropping knowledge on your pinstripes, then you can scram, cause I ain't going nowhere. The Bronx Squirrel is here to stay, and this nest, it's only getting bigger. Now buckle up, cause Judge or Raleigh, who's the real MVP? Let's get into it.
I've been listening to a lot of the arguments regarding Aaron Judge and Cal Raleigh and who's going to win the MVP. And it seems like a lot of the people in media in baseball seem to be leaning toward Cal Raleigh. And one of the prevailing arguments is, he's done something that nobody's ever done before. He's had 60 home runs as a catcher. He's one of the few clean players that has reached the 60 home run mark. All of that is true. It got me to thinking, does that win you the MVP? Because let's consider if there was a pitcher out there who pitched 3 perfect games in 1 year. 3. So unthinkable, but he did something that's never been done before. But the rest of the season, he was just average. So he finished 12-10 with a 4.50 ERA. All of the inside numbers, under the hood numbers, not that great. But boy, he had those 3 perfect games. Would you give him the Cy Young Award? Of course you wouldn't. Now, that's just hyperbolic in order to prove my point. And I know the thing that might get Cal Raleigh the MVP is the fact that he's hit 60 home runs. And you know what? He might end up breaking Aaron Judge's American League record. He might. Does that give him the Cy Young Award when, in fact, he trails in every other category except for RBIs? By a lot. By a lot. And I've said this before, if Raleigh won the MVP, would it be an outrage? No, he's had a stupendous year. But Aaron Judge has had one of the great years that anybody has ever had. And that's not hyperbole. Look at the numbers. He's having one of the best years that anybody has ever had. So I've also heard the argument, well, Cal Raleigh has put the Mariners on his back, and they won the American League West. I'm sure he's played a big role. And the other argument is, well, if you take Cal Raleigh off that team, would they be a playoff team? The answer is probably not, although they have great pitching. So I return serve on that, and I just ask you this one thing. If you took Aaron Judge off the Yankees, and you took his 51 home runs off the Yankees, and you took his .330 batting average off the Yankees, and you took the runs scored off the Yankees and the OPS plus and the WAR from Fangraphs and Baseball Reference, if you took all that away, would the Yankees make the playoffs? No, they would not make the playoffs. Because who would have to fill that role? It would have to be Jason Dominguez, who's a good player, but he's not an MVP. And the Mariners, I'm sure, would have another catcher back there. And would that catcher hit 60 home runs? No, he wouldn't. The thing that rankles me just a little bit is that you're willing to give him the MVP because of this amazing historic season he's having via the home run, which should be celebrated. No catcher's ever done this. No switch hitter's ever done this. It really is a phenomenal year. But you didn't use that same criteria in 2017 when Judge hit 52 home runs as a rookie. Nobody had ever done that. That was the most home runs ever by a rookie, a record that stood until Pete Alonso did it and hit 53. But you ignored that, and you accentuated the batting average that Altuve had, which was an advantage over Judge. Get it. Now, I thought at the time it was wrong. Now, with the information that I have, that the Astros knew what pitches were coming, you know that Judge should have won that award. So he should be working on 3 MVP. He's going for his fourth this year. Rather, he has 2 MVPs, and he's going for his third. So the writers made a mistake back in 2017, and they made that vote, obviously, before we knew that the Astros were cheating. And that's not me saying the Astros are cheating. That's the Astros admitting that the Astros are cheating. Banging the trash can, the whole deal. So they knew what pitches were coming. And I love the argument, well, he never really wanted those signs. Oh, okay. I'll play along. He was the one guy on the team that didn't want the signs. So they did that. They put up a screen behind the dugout to find out the signs electronically in real time because he didn't want it. He didn't want it. But again, I don't want to relitigate 2017, but what I am saying is at that point, you chose batting average over historic home run total. This time, you're choosing to go historic home run total over the batting titleist. He's going to beat Jacob Wilson for the batting title. So you got a 6'7", 282-pound man who's going to have over 50 home runs, whose numbers are so incredible that there have been very few, if any, right-handed batters that have done this in a season, and he's going to win a batting title. There have been only 2 people with 50 home runs in the history of baseball that have won the batting title, Jimmy Fox and Mickey Mantle, and it's going to be Aaron Judge. But 60 home runs, it seems like it supersedes everything. Again, I'm not saying that Cal Raleigh is not deserving, and I think it's going to be a close vote. But the way that people say it with such certitude, if you'll notice one thing that I'm doing, I'm not saying with any certitude. I'm leaning toward Judge, and I'm not disparaging Raleigh. Raleigh's had a season for the ages. And I love how people start to become literal. Well, I mean, it's not the best player or the best season. It's most valuable. Okay, it's most valuable. Judge is invaluable to the Yankees? How about he's invaluable to the Yankees? Yankees wouldn't be making the playoffs without Aaron Judge. And you can say the same thing about Raleigh. All right, so we know that they're both very, very valuable, right? Both very valuable. Then, okay, who had the better season? If you had a choice to have a season, if you were a baseball player, would it be Aaron Judge or would it be Cal Raleigh? I think you'd want Aaron Judge's season with the 330 batting average and the 51 home runs and the 130 runs scored and all the walks and all the runs scored. I think you'd want that. That might help your team a little bit more than a guy who's hitting 240 with 60 home runs. Come on. Can we all be honest with each other? We're all friends, right? It's crazy talk that, it's a slam dunk because of the 60 home runs. 60 home runs is phenomenal. And it's going to go down in baseball history as one of the great seasons, home run seasons in baseball history. Doesn't mean it's close to the best season, and it doesn't mean it's the most valuable player either.
Michael, listen, I get your whole analogy with the pitcher, throwing 3 perfect games but still finishing mediocre. It makes sense to prove your point. But here's the thing. Cal Raleigh ain't some middle-of-the-road guy who stumbled into 60. He's behind the dish, catching every night, managing a staff, taking a beating, and still dropping bombs at a pace we've never seen from a catcher. That matters, too. Now, Judge, forget about it. The man's putting up video game numbers, batting .330 with over 50 homers. That's not just MVP. That's, we're going to talk about this season 30 years from now type of dominance. You take him out of the Bronx, the Yankees are sitting home in October, plain and simple. But I don't love the moving of the goalposts, Mike. Back in 17, Judge hits 52 as a rookie, and y'all went, nah, batting average matters more. Now Cal Raleigh hits 60, and suddenly home runs trump everything else. Which one is it? Pick a standard and stick with it, or admit the voters play favorites. Bottom line, Raleigh's year deserves respect, historic in its own right. But Judge is the guy who gives you everything. Power, average, walks, leadership, the whole package. If you ask me, you put both resumes on the table, And 9 times out of 10, the one you want on your squad is Judge's. That's where I'm at, Judge's MVP. But Raleigh shouldn't get clowned if he sneaks it. Both dudes are carrying baseball right now.
15 teams in the league. Each city gets 2 votes. Now, I think it's going to be so close that there's a possibility it could be a tie. But here's the thing that I'm worried about. They don't just look at first-place votes, because you could look at it, and Judge and Raleigh could split the 30 first-place votes. So it could be 15-15. Maybe. But here's where it could get out of the realm of being a tie. I would think that if you vote for Raleigh, Judge should be second. And if you vote for Judge, Raleigh should be second. But there's going to be somebody, I don't know if it's a Seattle writer that wants to curry favor with Cal Raleigh or the organization. You could vote for Raleigh with the first vote, but you have to vote 10 people, the top 10 MVP. You could put Judge at number 3 and say put Bobby Witt at number 2. All of a sudden, then you calculate the votes and Raleigh will win because of that one person that decided to drop Judge to third rather than second. See what I mean? We'll talk more about this later. Mets with a big win over the Cubs, but again, concerning to me. They beat the Cubs 8-5, and their bullpen, for once, did very, very well. But the weight of the world is on these 3 kids. McLean, Tong, and Sproat. Sproat starting tonight against the Marlins. McLean was pitching well, and then it fell apart. He allowed 2 home runs. He had allowed 1 home run in his previous 7 starts. 5 1/3 innings, 5 hits, 2 walks. His ERA vaulted from 1.27 to 2.06. But the 3 2/3 scoreless innings from Stanek, Raleigh, Rogers, and Diaz, that got the win because the Cubs were trying to come back. They were attempting to come back, but the Mets took 2 out of 3 in Chicago. So I don't care about style points. I really don't. They came back from a 6-1 deficit in Game 1, ended up winning that one, 9-7. They lost on Wednesday, and then they came back and won yesterday, and they knew they had to win because earlier in the day, the Reds salvaged the final game of their 3-game set against the Pirates, 2-1, and Noel Marte made an unbelievable catch on a Reynolds drive to right field that would have tied the game at 2. He took away a home run. So the Mets knew that before they took the field that the Reds had won. So if they had lost, the Reds would have been in the 3rd playoff position. The Mets would have dropped out. But what I mean by I don't care about style points, I don't care how they did it, I care about if they get into playoffs, and I still believe they will, you're putting all of this emphasis on McLean, pitching innings he's never pitched before, and is considered the ace of a $340 million payroll. He's probably starting Game 1 of your postseason. Think about that. Jonah Tong, 22-year-old kid, probably up before they should have called him up, and he got slapped around in the 2nd game against the Cubs. And today you're going to have Sproat going against the Marlins. And Sproat's 0-1 with a 3.94. They're all good, but do you have a Garrett Crochet there? Do you have a Tarek Skubal? Do you have a Max Fried? I can name any number of aces out. The Mets don't have an ace. The Mets don't have a number 3. So if, in fact, they do play the 3-game series in L.A. against the Dodgers, the first pitcher they're going to see is Shohei Ohtani. Who's matching up with him? McLean? You're going to put a kid on the mound under that kind of pressure in front of 55,000 people at Dodger Stadium. Think about it. They're not set up to succeed. So they have 3 games coming up with the Marlins. It's Sproat today against Sandy Alcantara. And if you think it's going to be a pushover, and forget about 2007 and 2008 where the Marlins crushed your spirit. Forget about that. Different team. Both. Different team. But the Marlins, since June 13th, you ready for this? Are 13.5 games better than the Mets in the standings. So you're not facing a team that's so much worse than you. They're a couple of games behind you in the standings. They actually got eliminated yesterday when they lost 1-0 to the Phillies. They were still alive. If they had gotten to 81 wins and everybody else had lost every game, they would have been in the playoffs. So the Marlins are not a pushover, and they would love to knock the Mets out. Love it. But why I think the Mets will persevere? They'll be able to grab one, maybe 2 wins, maybe. Are the Reds going to be able to beat Milwaukee? And the Diamondbacks are going to San Diego. I've been telling you this, and if you'd all just listen to me, you'd have a lot less stress in your life. The teams that are chasing the Mets are not good enough. As bad as the Mets are, the Reds are not ready for prime time. The Diamondbacks, I don't even know how they've done it. With all the trades they made, all the people they gave away at the trade deadline, and somehow Torey Lovullo has kept them motivated and engaged and on the precipice of making the playoffs. The Mets better hope that Milwaukee puts up a little bit of a fight and that the Padres put up a little bit of a fight. Because if those teams sweep, I don't think they can, but if they sweep, the Mets don't hold the tiebreaker against either of them. So they split with the Diamondbacks, right? And you might say, well, okay, they split. There's no tie. Yeah, there is a tiebreaker. It's your record within your own division. So if the Mets can't win their games against the Marlins in their own division, they're going to be under 500 against the NL East. And if the Diamondbacks do sweep the Padres, their record is going to be over 500 in the National League West. So that would be the tiebreaker. The Mets don't have the tiebreaker against either team. Now, I believe that they will make the playoffs, but I will tell you the shame on them for making it this tough. And as I said yesterday, and I'll repeat over and over again, please spare me with the injuries. Spare me. A lot of teams have injuries. Losing Griffin Canning and McGill does not measure up to losing Garrett Cole, Louis Heel for 4 months, and Clark Schmidt. Sorry, doesn't measure up to losing Stanton for 4 months. Sorry, it doesn't. It just doesn't. And I could give you injury. Zach Wheeler, does it measure up to losing Zach Wheeler for the Phillies? Canning and McGill are not Zach Wheeler. Together, they're not Zach Wheeler. But gee whiz, somehow the Phillies persevered and ran away with the division. Guy stepped up yesterday. Beatty hit a home run. Lindor hit a home run. Mets, for the first time in their history, have 3 players with 30 or more home runs. They did the little things they had to do. I can't wait for them to go into the playoffs because I want to see how these kids are going to perform. How will they squeeze 2 wins against the Dodgers with any combination of Peterson, Manaea, Holmes, McClain, Tongue, Sprout? How? I don't think they can. I think they will make the playoffs, and I do not think they will get through the Dodgers. If they do, wow. Well, then they could go on another little run again, another magical run like last year. Yankees beat the White Sox 5-3, a big bases-loaded double, clearing the bases by Giancarlo Stanton, turned a 3-1 deficit into a 4-3 lead. The Yankee bullpen again did its job. Devin Williams got a little scary with 2 outs, but a great catch by Bellinger. And then Bednar closed it out. And the Red Sox lost the final game of the 3-game set to Toronto. You cannot get on the Red Sox. Oh, they didn't help us out. Red Sox helped you out plenty. In fact, it went perfect for the Yankees. Red Sox took 2 out of 3 while the Yankees were sweeping. So the Yankees picked up the 2 games that they were behind Toronto. So now they're dead tied going into the final weekend. Tampa Bay at Toronto. Tonight starts. Tampa Bay never gives up. They never roll over. Kevin Cash doesn't allow them to. Are they as good as the Blue Jays? Nope. Can they take 1 game from the Blue Jays? Yeah. 2? I don't know. But they can take 1. And all they have to do is take 1, and the Yankees sweep the Orioles. But that's going to be easier said than done. Why? Because the Orioles are much better than you think they are. And the guy they're sending out to the mound tonight, Trevor Rogers, if you take a deep dive into his numbers, he's coming back from Tommy John surgery. He might be one of the 3 top pitchers in all of baseball. 9-2, with a 1.35 ERA. They have Bradish on Sunday. They have Sugano tomorrow. They're sending 3 really good pitchers out against the Yankees. So the Yankees have their work cut out for them. Here's what the Yankees have to do. Sweep. Because I don't think Toronto is going to sweep Tampa Bay. That's what the Yankees have to do. Sweep. And then they win the American League East. And I thought that Aaron Boone said it best because he's being questioned. Well, a lot of our callers have questioned me about this. Well, isn't it better to play the 3 games rather than go stale? And Boone looked at the person who asked him that with a look of incredulity and said, well, if you finish first, that means you won the first round. You're getting a bye through the first round. Why would you rather play 2 out of 3 to stay sharp? It's on us to stay sharp. And by the way, the Yankees and the Dodgers both had byes last year, and they made it to the World Series. Anybody that would rather play a best-of-3 wild card so you could stay sharp, you're not that sharp. You're not that sharp. It doesn't make any sense. You can lose that series. One thing did happen for the Yankees yesterday, which is a plus. With the Red Sox losing and the Yankees winning again, the Yankees have clinched home field advantage if, in fact, they get into the playoffs as a wild card and not the winner of the American League East. So if they start a 3-game series against the Red Sox, it'll be Tuesday night at Yankee Stadium. It will not be Tuesday night at Fenway Park. Now, is that the be-all, end-all? Absolutely not. But it's better than being at Fenway. You got last licks. You got the Yankee Stadium crowd on your side. That's what you have. But I'll tell you what, my preference is to go in as the American League East champion. Get yourself the bye, and that's what you do.
See, this is where baseball politics drives me nuts. Michael's right. The MVP race could get funky because of second place votes. You could have Judge and Raleigh splitting first 15-15, but then some sneaky writer slides Judge to third just to tilt the scale. That's the kind of nonsense that makes fans throw their remotes. If you believe Raleigh's first, fine, but Judge is second. If you believe Judge is first, fine, Raleigh's second. Anything else is gamesmanship. And then with the Mets, yeah, they're scrapping. But let's be real. They're walking into October with kids who should still be eating PB and J's in AAA, not trying to match up with Shohei Ohtani at Dodger Stadium. That's not fair to them, and it's not built for success. You don't pay $340 million to lean on rookies like McClain and Sprout to save your season. That's just bad roster construction, point blank. But credit where it's due. They fought back. Took 2 of 3 from the Cubs, and the bullpen actually showed a pulse. Sometimes you don't need style points, you just need wins. Mets are hanging around because the Reds and D-backs can't quite slam the door, not because the Mets are dominating. Now flip it, Yankees. They're still in a dogfight, but they control their destiny. Sweep, and you're golden. And I agree with Boone here. Who in their right mind wants a wild card instead of a bye? If you'd rather play a 3-game crapshoot just to stay sharp, you're not sharp to begin with. So bottom line, MVP voters better not play games with the rankings. The Mets are hanging on by a thread, and the Yankees need to handle business. Simple as that.
All right, let's go to the phones. Let's start it off with John in Washington. John, talk to me.
Hey, Michael. Nice to be on the show again with you. I want everybody to get real close to the phone and just listen. Judge has been walked, 37 times?
Mm-hmm.
Intentionally?
Yep.
Like, to me, it was like that right there speaks volumes on his value, that a team like the White Sox, who is completely out of it, is purposely putting them on. And I'm also looking back to a couple years ago when he was going for that record, nobody was pitching to him.
Mm-hmm.
And Raleigh is getting cookies down the middle.
It does tell you something. I don't think the Rockies even thought about pitching him differently and trying to stop him from hitting home runs. I mean, if you looked at the pitches that he hit for home runs, they were not particularly difficult pitches. You could still be intentionally walked and hit your home runs. Look at Barry Bonds, who was intentionally walked 120 times one year. Judge, though, has been walked now 36 times intentionally. And that's more than most major league teams. I was surprised that the White Sox were walking him because the White Sox, obviously they want to win, but you also want to see what you have with pitchers. So don't you want the pitchers to see if they could get out Aaron Judge? The game means nothing to the White Sox. So when John Schneider of the Blue Jays continually walked Aaron Judge when the Blue Jays swept the Yankees in that 4-game series, I totally understood it. If I'm a team that's playing for something, I'd never pitch to Judge. But the White Sox, all the times they intentionally walked him in the 3 games, I don't get that. Aren't you trying to find out what your team is about? That's all I'm wondering. Don't you want to see if a pitcher could get Judge out in a big spot? Instead, you do this strategic thing, and that's what Will Venable did. Okay, I'm not going to pitch to Judge. I'll pitch to Bellinger. Let's go to Juan in Worcester. Juan.
Good afternoon, Mr. Michael.
How are you?
I'm doing great. First time, long time being a fan, long time listening to the show. First thing I want to say, Michael, growing up in Dominican Republic, it was a pleasure for me to say everybody, when I was 13 years old in 2000, telling everybody that Roger Clemens was better than Pedro Martinez. That was my pleasure. That was the kind of fan that I am.
Okay.
And it always been a pleasure listening to you in the background of all this plays. It was a different access in the air. I have all the access to you and yes now. And I really appreciate your talent and the people around you. But having said all that, my question to you is, are you familiar with the criteria for meeting the Hall of Famer as a broadcaster? Because in my eyes, you are a Hall of Famer. So I would like to listen your perspective about it. And I also want to say, you got to be blind like the law for not to see that Aaron Judge is the MVP over Raleigh. In 1998, Sammy Sosa hit 66 homers, and he was the MVP, no Mark McGwire, who hit 70. I know 66 is closer than to 70 than 51 than whatever Raleigh has now, but like you've been saying the whole time, he beats him in every other category, every other important statistic besides homer and RBIs.
Well, I would agree with you. I agree with everything you're saying, Juan. The one thing that I would take exception to, everybody is saying, well, it would be outrageous if Raleigh won. It wouldn't be outrageous. He's had a great year. I think that Judge should win. But if Cal Raleigh won, would it be the great train robbery of all time? No, I think it would be an incorrect choice. But it's not like you're picking some bum. This guy's had one of the great seasons of all time. But so has Judge. And if you look at Judge's overall season, I believe he's been much better than Raleigh. Raleigh beats him in home runs and RBIs. That's it. Every other stat, some that people think are more important, Judge beats him and beats him convincingly. Now, as for the broadcasters' wing of the Hall of Fame, I used to talk with Don about this, and he would argue with me. I'm not getting in. I'm just not. The way it works is I think you have to get nominated by some fan vote or something like that. And then once you get nominated, then there's a committee that's put together by the Hall of Fame that it looks like they choose radio broadcasters more than television guys. They just do. So the guy who got in last year, Tom Hamilton, who's great, longtime Guardians broadcaster, he's a radio guy. So they look at radio as more of a real tell on what type of baseball broadcaster you are. If I got in, would I absolutely adore it? Of course I would. You kind of become part of forever, but under no circumstance do I think that's going to happen. So it's a very political thing. The people that are voting, some of them aren't even broadcasters, so they wouldn't know what would be good or bad. Some of the people that have already won, they do get a vote. But I've talked to some people that are on the committee, and they think it has to be completely redone, but the Hall of Fame has no intention of redoing how it's decided. So the way it's set up now, I don't think I would get in, and nor do I think I deserve it. I think I'm good at what I do, but Hall of Fame, you have to be the best of the best. And am I Mel Allen? No. Am I Vince Scully? No. Am I Bob Costas? No. There's a Hall of Fame, and I guess I would be in the Hall of Good. I'm not being humble. I think I do a pretty good job, and to have a job for 34 years means that you're doing something right. But in terms of like being so great to be in the Hall of Fame, I don't I don't sense that's going to happen. Anthony in South Jersey. Anthony.
Hey, Michael K. My name's Anthony Yesner. I'm a first-time, long-time. Just wanted to start off by saying that our family loves you. My wife, we met about 6 years ago, didn't know anything about baseball. I said, listen to Michael K. He's amazing. So
man, thank
our
you.
family loves you here. I actually wanted to talk about Aaron Judge and Cal Raleigh. I also think that it's definitely Aaron Judge, and the reason being not only he leads in every other category, but I also look at it as how the team plays when Aaron Judge is out of the lineup. Usually if he's injured, the team definitely struggles a little bit more, rather than when he's in the lineup. When he's in the lineup and he's performing, playing good, the team just performs a little bit differently. Just wanted to get your thoughts on that. I appreciate it.
First of all, thank you for the kind words, Anthony. Have a great weekend. I think that it comes down to how important he is to this team. Even when he was unable to play right field, I think it hurt them. And then the 10 games he missed when he first hurt the flexor tendon in the elbow, well, they didn't play that well. Take a look at what happened to the Yankee season when he ran into the fence at Dodger Stadium. They didn't make the playoffs. They're completely different. This team is built around Aaron Judge. And you could say that the Mariners are built around Cal Raleigh. I think the Mariners are built around pitching. Now, Cal Raleigh has a big part of that because he catches that staff. So you can't just dismiss that. But again, the one version of WAR that really incorporates what you do as a defender, especially as a catcher, is Fangraphs. So you look at Fangraphs WAR, and Judge still leads Raleigh. And Fangraphs puts a heavy emphasis on framing and receiving and throwing and stuff like that. Baseball Reference WAR does not. So in Baseball Reference WAR, Judge beats him by 2 full points. Now, in Fangraphs WAR, he beats him by 0.6, but still beats him. So when you say, okay, Raleigh's the MVP, okay, so what are you hanging your hat on? Because the thing that decides what type of player you are, that Major League Baseball is run on, tells you in both of the different wars that Judge is the better player or has had the better season. Both of them. You look at OPS plus, he blows him away in that. And that tells you how much better you are than the average player. And Judge has had historic OPS plus numbers over the last couple of years, including this year as well. Let's go to David on the east side. David.
Michael, the MVP debate is important. I'm not saying we shouldn't have it, but I am worried that Yankee fans are getting a little too obsessed with it and losing how much more important it is to Judge's legacy that he wins a World Series. I just wish I heard at least a few Yankee fans saying Judge is the MVP, but Cal can have it. We're not going to die on that hill. We want our captain to get his ring. So that's my message to Yankee fans. Let's win the World Series, and then in November, when Cal is announced as the MVP, we won't care one bit because Judge is the champ.
Well, I mean, I think you might have called into Don Hahn and Rosenberg. It might have been you or somebody. I think that's so silly. Just because you want him to win the MVP, of course he has to perform better in the postseason. Of course. They're both mutually exclusive. If he gets the MVP, it doesn't mean that he doesn't perform well in the postseason. I don't understand that thinking. I mean, what are you exactly trying to put across? Okay, let's not worry about the MVP. Let's worry about whether he performs in the postseason. As if one leads to the other or one doesn't lead to the other? The votes have to be in on Monday. That's before the postseason even starts. So that's a ridiculous take. Now, if you're saying, I don't care if he wins the MVP, all I want to do, I want to see him win an MVP in the World Series, okay. But again, one does not exclude the other. That's just a silly take, David. It really is. I don't know why Yankee fans are worried about that. They should be worried about the postseason. You can't worry about both? One is one thing, one's another. With all due respect, you're a good caller, but I don't get that take at all. It's kind of like way out there, like you're trying too hard, bro, in the words of Don LaGreca, who was imitating the words of Joe Beningo. You're trying too hard, bro. You really are. Let's not worry about the MVP. Let's worry about the postseason. How about worrying about both? That's like, let's not worry about paying the electric bill. Let's worry about paying the mortgage. Let's worry about paying both. And that's a bad example because those two things are not mutually exclusive. If you pay the electric bill, you might not have the money to pay the mortgage, and vice versa. But if you win the American League MVP, it has nothing to do with how you do in the postseason. And if you don't win it, it has nothing to do with what you do in the postseason. That's why you don't vote during the postseason. You vote before the postseason begins. Every single vote has to be in by Monday. David, come on.
First off, that caller John is spot on. The walks alone tell the story. You don't hand a guy 36, 37 intentional passes unless you're flat out terrified. Judge is basically Barry Bonds light in that sense. Teams are treating him like a human cheat code. Meanwhile, Cal Raleigh, he's getting pitches to hit. Cookies down the middle. That's not me knocking Raleigh. He's having a great year, but Judge's value is shown in how other teams avoid him. That's respect. You can't fake. Then we had Juan coming in talking Hall of Fame broadcasters, giving Michael flowers. And listen, I get where he's coming from. Michael might downplay himself, but longevity does mean something. You don't sit behind the mic for 30 plus years in New York if you're just good. Hall of Fame or not, K's voice is stitched into Yankee history like pinstripes. That matters. And back to Judge versus Raleigh. This debate is actually simpler than people want to make it. Judge leads in every major advanced stat. OPS plus, WAR, you name it. Raleigh's got the sexy totals in HRS and RBIS, but Judge drags the whole team up when he's in the lineup. When he's out, Yankees crumble. Mariners, they're built on arms. Raleigh's part of that, sure, but Judge is the engine. Now, Anthony's point about Judge's impact on the Yankees was perfect. That Dodgers fence crash, season collapsed. That's your definition of MVP. One man changes the trajectory of a $280 million roster. And to David on the East Side, brother, I hear you, but you're mixing lanes. Wanting Judge to get MVP doesn't mean Yankee fans stop caring about a ring. They're separate battles. MVP voting's done before the postseason even starts. It's apples and oranges. Yankees need both. Their captain, crowned as the league's best and leading the charge in October. Anything less is selling him short. Judge is the MVP, period. Raleigh had a monster year, but the respect Judge commands, the walks, the fear, the impact when he's in versus out. That's the definition of value. And as for the fans, don't overthink it. Want the trophy, want the ring. The Bronx doesn't do either or. We do both.
I said, let's get him on the show. Let everybody enjoy it. And you can enjoy him in the New York Post and on MLB Network as well. And we welcome in Joel Sherman. Hey, Joel, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Mike. Can we just end it there? I don't think it's ever going to get much better than that for me, so I appreciate it. That's really kind of you.
You got it. All right, let's start off with something that has been front and center on the show for the last week or so. Give me your read on Judge and Raleigh, and who's your MVP?
You know, Mike, I never abstain. I will say that I literally finished writing my awards column about 2 hours ago. It will be posted online at nypost.com tomorrow and be in the actual physical newspaper on Sunday.
Okay.
I'd rather not give it away except for to say this. I think that there are some people who say, oh, this is obvious. And if you see this as obvious, I see you as either like a completely biased person, either fan or person. And so for those people, I always say, put Aaron Judge with these numbers on Seattle and put Cal Raleigh on the Yankees. Do you know a Yankee fan in the world, if they had a catcher who's hit 60 homers, who would be saying Aaron Judge is the MVP? So there's that. Or they're just so cocksure because they look at something like WAR, OPS, and that's their Bible. And those are the kind of people who scare me in sports and the world when they're so cocksure about something. You know, like if you're making a WAR argument, a strictly WAR argument, it also means that Gerardo Perdomo of the Arizona Diamondbacks is the National League MVP. Are you ready to fight that if you're a Baseball Reference WAR person? So I think this is a really tough case. And I made a call on it, and maybe we should have talked Monday because I don't really want to kind of like just give it away, but I think it's razor thin. I think you can make a strong case for either side, Mike.
Well, it's funny the way you put it, and I would give it to Judge, but I agree with you those that say, well, there's no debate, taking either side, it doesn't make sense. Because if Cal Raleigh won the MVP, would I be outraged? No. And if Aaron Judge wins the MVP, should people that think Cal Raleigh deserves it, should they be outraged? No. They both had unbelievable seasons. Here's the thing that bothers me with these awards, though, Joel, is that everybody puts emphasis on different things. And I don't know if the rules are really laid out. I mean, is it the best player? Because when you look at Andre Dawson, when he won the MVP, if you look at the other stats, maybe he shouldn't have. So people locked in on the 49 home runs. It's just that every single person has a different thing that they accentuate.
Mike, I would say that's true, though, about elections of all types, right? Like sometimes the Republican wins, sometimes the Democrat wins, mayor, senator, governor, president. People emphasize their wallets, sometimes education, etc. I get the changing views. You hope people just go in and really do the work and stay unbiased. And look, here's just something I would say about each side on this. If I was trying to make a case, if I was trying to be lawyerly, I would point out, I don't think it's ever been tougher to be a major league catcher than right now. Mike, we watch these guys. The velocity has never been like this. The movement has never been like this. The individual scouting report for every hitter hasn't been like this. So there's a mental, physical burden on catchers like never before. And the American League leader in innings caught is Cal Raleigh, and he's very good at it. And the idea that somebody in this age would be a heavily used catcher and be able to hit 60 homers in a season seems crazy to me, number one, and that he would not be the MVP would be equally insane, except for in this century, I'll go back even further. Since 162 games was instituted fully in 1962, there have been 8 cases of a player having a 210 OPS plus or better in a full season. So 162 games. So, not the COVID year, not some of the years that were hurt by labor, in 162 games. 4 of them were by Barry Bonds. That's somewhat tainted. 1 of them is by Mark McGwire. It is at least somewhat tainted. The other 3 are by Judge, including this year. We are watching something that you just don't see. He's one of the greatest offensive players in the history of the sport at his peak doing it. At a time where it's never been tougher to hit, he's leading the league in batting average and has 51 homers and is like worlds away from everybody else when you do OPS plus. And I think there's other stats that would show that. And so these are the 2 cases. And I think you could lawyerly argue either case and say that's the MVP and feel strongly about it. But I don't really feel strongly about it. I think that there's 2 great answers, which means there's also going to be 1 wrong answer. I think this is a very, very tough case.
First off, respect to Sherman. He actually framed it like a lawyer. He's saying, if you ride too hard on WAR alone, you end up in crazy territory, like arguing Perdomo's the NL MVP. And he's right. Context matters. Baseball ain't just spreadsheets. It's the weight of the season, the role a guy plays, the respect he commands, the fear he strikes. Now, his point about catching is real. Raleigh deserves flowers there. This era, 100 miles per hour gas, sliders snapping like wiffle balls, scouting reports as thick as a novel, being behind the plate and then mashing 60, that's historic, no doubt. If you're arguing strictly catcher workload plus power, Raleigh, he's your guy. But then, Sherman, pivots. And here's where I'm with him 100%. Judge is on a level we've literally only seen from Bonds, McGwire, Fox, Mantle. OPS plus over 210. League leading batting average, 51 bombs. A 6'7", 282-pound monster doing things no clean right-handed hitter has ever done. That ain't just MVP, that's generational. That's, you'll tell your grandkids you watched it type stuff. And he nails the vibe. This ain't obvious. If you scream, it's a slam dunk, one way or the other, you're exposing your bias. But here's the Bronx cut. Judge is giving you one of the greatest offensive seasons in history in the middle of the hardest pitching era we've ever seen. Raleigh's season, legendary for a catcher. Judge's season, legendary for baseball, period. So Sherman tried to walk it right down the line. Razor thin, 2 great answers. Respect. But in the Bronx, we ain't splitting hairs. You drop a 210 OPS plus, lead the league in average, mash 50 plus, and carry a team. That's MVP. Come on. All right, that's going to do it for today's rant. Now it's your turn. Jump in the comments. Let me know if I'm right, if I'm wrong, or if you think I'm out of my mind. And don't forget, hit that subscribe, smash that like. It helps the channel grow. We'll be back with more takes, more debates, and maybe a few arguments. Until then, stay loud, stay passionate, and I'll catch you next time.